Have you ever grappled with the profound mystery of what truly happens after death? Do you believe that rituals, prayers, or the intercession of priests can fundamentally alter the destiny of a soul, regardless of the life it lived? What if the path to a higher realm, or even a lower one, is determined not by external ceremonies, but by an unshakable, universal law woven into the very fabric of existence, a law as undeniable as gravity itself? Today, we journey into one of the Buddha's most direct and revolutionary teachings on karma. A profound parable that uses simple elements, butter, pebbles, and water, to unveil the unbreakable chain of cause and effect. We'll witness a grieving son's desperate plea, the Buddha's unexpected ritual, and the powerful realization that true destiny is sculpted not by external ceremonies, but by the very actions we perform in this life. Prepare to discover why your choices today are meticulously weaving the fabric of your tomorrow, and how understanding this fundamental law empowers you to consciously shape a future of boundless peace and profound happiness. Chapter 1. The Grieving Son's Plea, Seeking a Shortcut to Heaven. Visual. A young man, looking distraught, approaches the serene Buddha. He speaks with desperation. The Buddha listens patiently. The scene shifts to a bustling market, where the young man, looking puzzled, purchases 2 clay pots, butter, and pebbles. Our story begins with a young man, his heart heavy with profound grief, who approached the Buddha. His father had recently passed away, and the son was deeply troubled by the uncertainty of his father's afterlife. He yearned for his father's soul to ascend to a higher realm, to find eternal peace in heaven, regardless of the good or bad actions his father might have performed during his lifetime. He believed, as many do, that a special ritual or ceremony could somehow override the natural consequences of past deeds. "O Lord," the young man implored, his voice filled with desperation, "my father has died, and I want to perform the best afterlife rituals for him. Despite my father's good or bad actions in his life, I want his soul to go up to heaven and permanently reside there. I could have gone to any ordinary priest in the village, but I have come to you, great Buddha, with this sacred request. I want you to perform afterlife rituals for my father, so that in his afterlife, he can gain entry to heaven." He sought not guidance on ethical living, but a magical bypass for karmic consequences. The Buddha listened patiently, his serene gaze fixed on the young man, his eyes radiating compassion and understanding, not judgment. He recognized the depth of the son's grief and his earnest, albeit misguided, desire. He did not immediately offer a discourse on karma or the nature of existence. Instead, he presented a simple, practical request, one that would lead to a profound, undeniable experiential lesson. "My friend," the Buddha said, his voice calm and clear, "go to the market and buy 2 earthen pots. Also, bring some butter and some pebbles to fill in the pots." The young man was somewhat puzzled by the Buddha's unusual reply. He had expected complex mantras or elaborate ceremonies, not a trip to the market for such mundane items, but trusting the Buddha implicitly, and believing this was merely a preliminary step for some grand ritual. He went to the market and purchased the requested items. Upon his return, the young man had gathered everything: 2 clay pots, a quantity of butter, and a handful of pebbles. The Buddha then instructed him, "Now, fill 1 pot with butter and the other with pebbles. Seal both pots tightly." The young man did as he was told, diligently filling 1 pot with smooth, soft butter and the other with rough, hard pebbles, then sealing them completely, ready for the next stage of the ritual. Buddhist insight. This opening establishes the son's tanha, craving, for his father's salvation, and his avidya, ignorance, regarding the true nature of karma. He seeks external rituals to manipulate destiny, a common human tendency. The Buddha's response with the pots, butter, and pebbles is a classic upaya, skillful means, a practical, observable experiment designed to illustrate a profound, abstract truth about karma. It highlights the Buddha's method of teaching through direct experience rather than mere intellectual discourse. Chapter 2. The Ritual of Nature's Law, an Unbreakable Demonstration. Visual. The young man placing the pots in the pond, they sink. He then strikes them, breaking them open. Butter floats to the top, stones sink to the bottom. His face shows confusion, then gradual realization. The stage was set for the Buddha's unique ritual. Now, the Buddha instructed the young man, "Put both of those sealed pots into a nearby pond." The young man did as the Buddha said, lowering the pots into the water. As expected, both pots, weighted by their contents, sank immediately to the bottom of the pond, resting silently on the muddy bed. Now, the Buddha commanded, "Bring your staff, your long, strong walking stick, and strike both pots. Break them open." The young man, still believing that the Buddha would now perform some wonderful, mystical ritual for his father's ascent, eagerly complied. He raised his staff and struck both pots with force, breaking them open beneath the water's surface. As the pots shattered, the contents were released, and the unshakable law of nature immediately took its course. The butter, being lighter than water and naturally buoyant, escaped from the first pot and effortlessly floated to the surface, shimmering in the light. In stark contrast, the stones from the other pot, being heavier than water, remained bound by gravity and settled firmly at the bottom of the pond. The separation was clear, immediate, and undeniable. The Buddha then turned to the young man, a knowing smile gracing his lips. "I have done this much," he said, gesturing to the pond. "Now, call all your priests. Let them come and pray. Let them chant their most powerful mantras, perform their most elaborate ceremonies, and invoke all the divine powers they know. Let them pray so that the pebbles, now at the bottom, can rise to the surface, and the butter, now floating, can somehow miraculously sink to the bottom." The young man looked at the Buddha with utter bewilderment, then a dawning sense of the absurd. "Are you joking, Lord?" he replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "How is this possible? It is against the law of nature. Pebbles are heavier than water. They are bound to stay down. They can't float, whereas butter is lighter than water. It is bound to go up and float on the water. It cannot go down." His understanding of natural law was absolute. Buddhist insight. This central experiment is a powerful upaya, skillful means, demonstrating the unbreakable law of karma. The pots, butter, and pebbles are metaphors. Pots symbolize the physical body or temporary containers of actions. Butter represents wholesome, skillful actions, kusala karma, light, pure, naturally tending upwards. Pebbles represent unwholesome, unskillful actions, akusala karma, heavy, dense, naturally sinking downwards. The striking of the pots symbolizes death or the breaking of the physical form. The separation of butter and pebbles immediately illustrates vipaka, the ripening of karmic results, according to their inherent nature. The Buddha's challenge to call the priests and pray highlights the futility of external rituals in altering the inherent consequences of actions. The man's certainty about natural law, buoyancy, sets up the direct analogy to karmic law, making it undeniably clear. Chapter 3. The Universal Law, Your Actions Sculpt Your Destiny. Visual. The Buddha looks deeply into the young man's eyes. His expression profound, shows subtle abstract visuals of wholesome actions, light, ascending, and unwholesome actions, heavy, descending. The wheel of karma appears, turning steadily, unaffected by external pleas. The Buddha then, with profound wisdom and compassion, delivered the core teaching, a truth that transcended the young man's initial request for ritual and reached the very heart of his understanding of life and death. "Young man," the Buddha said, his voice resonating with universal truth, "you know so much about nature. You understand its unwavering laws concerning butter and pebbles, density and buoyancy. Yet, you do not want to understand the very same law that is applicable to one and all, to every sentient being, governing the consequences of their actions." The Buddha continued, his words cutting through the man's ignorance and laying bare the fundamental principle of existence. "If your father, throughout his life, kept performing bad actions, actions that were heavy like pebbles and stones, rooted in greed, hatred, and ignorance, then he is bound to go down. No one, no priest, no ritual, no prayer, no external power, can pull him up against the natural law of his own accumulated karma." And conversely, the Buddha affirmed, if he kept performing good actions, actions that were pure and light like butter, rooted in generosity, kindness, and wisdom, then he is bound to go up. No one, no obstacle, no negativity, can push him down. This is the law of karma. This is the law of nature. precise and unwavering. The Buddha then addressed a fundamental human delusion. Our difficulty, my friend, is that we often think that some invisible power, some benevolent deity, will somehow favor us, will somehow intervene on our behalf, overriding the natural consequences of our deeds, even though we do nothing to change our wrong behavior and our own unskillful actions. This clinging to external salvation, while ignoring personal responsibility, is a profound form of avidya, ignorance. Buddhist insight. This section delivers the central message. Karma is a universal, impartial law, akin to the laws of physics. It's not a punishment from a deity but the natural consequence of actions based on their inherent quality, wholesome, unwholesome. The Buddha's direct comparison between the physical law of buoyancy and the moral law of karma makes the abstract concept of karma concrete and undeniable. He challenges the notion of external intervention overriding personal accountability. This emphasizes personal responsibility for one's actions, right action, samma kammanta, and intentions, right intention, samma sankappa, as the sole determinants of one's future. The difficulty people face in accepting this truth stems from avidya, ignorance, and tanha, craving for external salvation. Conclusion. The architect of your destiny, sow goodness, reap happiness. Visual. A person planting seeds, representing good deeds. Then a garden blossoming. Show a person making a conscious choice to act kindly. A serene face, radiating inner peace. The Buddha story logo appears, shining brightly. You see, in our lives, we often find that people expect good outcomes even for the unskillful or negative karma they have performed. They seek rewards without having sown the corresponding seeds. But they tragically forget that the fruit of our experiences, the quality of our future, depends directly and precisely on our actions in the present. Therefore, we must be exceptionally careful, profoundly mindful, about our actions in daily life. We must choose to do only good, to cultivate wholesome deeds, and to act with pure intentions. This isn't about rigid rules, it's about aligning ourselves with the very fabric of the universe, with the law that ensures what goes around truly comes around. This timeless parable, illuminated by the Buddha's profound wisdom, offers us a radical redefinition of destiny and empowers us to become the conscious architects of our own future. It urges us to look beyond fleeting hopes for external salvation and to embrace the profound power of our own choices. Key learnings for your personal Buddha story. Karma is an immutable law, like the laws of nature. The law of karma, cause and effect, is unwavering and impartial. Wholesome actions lead to positive results. Unwholesome actions lead to negative results. No ritual or prayer can override this fundamental truth. Application. Understand that you are constantly weaving your destiny with every thought, word, and deed. Take full responsibility for your actions, knowing their consequences are inherent, not imposed. Intentions determine karmic weight. The quality of your actions, butter versus pebbles, is determined by your underlying intention, satana. Pure intentions lead to lightness and ascent. Unskillful intentions lead to heaviness and descent. Application. Cultivate right intention, samma sankappa. Before acting, pause and examine your motivation. Is it rooted in generosity, kindness, and wisdom, or in greed, hatred, or ignorance? Purifying your intentions is key. True salvation is self-generated. You cannot outsource your destiny to a priest or an external power. The path to a higher state of being is cultivated through your own efforts and ethical conduct. Application. Focus on your own actions and inner transformation. Don't expect external forces to rescue you from the consequences of your choices. Your liberation is in your hands. The power of present moment action. Your future is not predetermined by a past curse, but is constantly being sculpted by your actions in the present moment. Application. Be mindful of your daily choices. Understand that every small act of kindness, every moment of self-restraint, every conscious effort to do good, is a precious seed planted for a more wholesome and happy future. Happiness is a consequence of wholesome deeds. To find true happiness and fulfillment, you must align your actions with universal ethical principles. The fruit you experience depends entirely on the seeds you sow. Application. Prioritize doing good. Engage in acts of dana, generosity, and metta, loving kindness. These are not merely duties, but direct pathways to cultivating inner peace and external well-being. The Buddha's profound wisdom, beautifully illuminated by this parable, invites us to embark on a transformative journey, from seeking external salvation to becoming the conscious, empowered architects of our own boundless destiny. Guided by the unshakable law of karma, your life is your most precious Buddha story. Thank you for watching, and may you always carry the profound peace and illuminating wisdom of these stories within your heart. Join our growing community by liking this video and subscribing to Buddha Story, where ancient wisdom beautifully meets modern mindfulness. What wholesome action will you commit to performing today to sow seeds for a brighter future? Share your reflections and experiences in the comments below. Until our next encounter, may your path be filled with profound peace, deep understanding, and the radiant light of your own awakening.